Oh my. Well, good afternoon. So thank you, President DeGioia, for that incredible honor. And I'm really quite moved by Kristen's introduction and the acknowledgement. And to the faculty and leaders of Georgetown, I thank all of you for your continued leadership and for this tremendous honor and privilege. And to the parents, the grandparents, spouses, siblings, family members, and of course, the graduating class of 2019 from the School of Continuing Studies, congratulations on a job well done. I especially want to acknowledge, as a Blue Star mom myself, the many of you who I know are veterans, are from military families in this class and at this school, because this school has really been a beacon for military families and students. And so thank you for your service, your sacrifice, your dedication, and a special congratulations to all of you. Now, just 3 weeks ago, I was out there where you are seated now, attending my youngest child's college commencement. It was outdoors in desert heat, not humid heat, but desert heat, still hot. So I know what it's like to sit through a speech from someone you actually do not know, who's not a comedian or a tech giant founder, and you are just waiting for your time to walk across this stage and get your hard-earned degree. And indeed, do not tell my daughter, but while at her commencement, during this part of the ceremony, as I sat and listened to the speaker, I broke out into a full-on panic attack at the thought that today, you would be experiencing what I experienced then, namely thinking, this is the most irrelevant speech in the heat I can imagine, and I will not reveal to you where my daughter went to college, so you cannot look up that speaker. Now, Georgetown holds a special place in my heart, as I suspect it does in the hearts of many White House staffers of both parties, because this institution has shown its commitment to the finest traditions of academia and civic engagement. During my time at the White House, I visited the Georgetown campus on many occasions, whether it was accompanying my former boss or my forever boss, as I call the former First Lady, Michelle Obama. Who knew that was a guaranteed applause line? When she came to speak to high school students in Riggs Library, or to watch then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton deliver a critical speech to the world on human rights in Gaston Hall, or attend a meeting with former First Lady Laura Bush as a member of the U.S. Afghan Women's Council, which this university continues to support to this day, or to my favorite events, which are anything the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace, and Security puts on, both because those issues are dear to me, but also because your executive director of the Institute is the formidable former ambassador for global women's issues, Milan Verveer, and as President DeGioia knows, we all do whatever Milan tells us to do. Indeed, one of my last visits to Georgetown in my role as Mrs. Obama's chief of staff was to attend a meeting that Milan and her team had organized for us to explore the research needed to support our effort to promote global education for the 98 million adolescent girls around the world today who are not in school. These are young women who hold the golden key to solving the world's development problems, because we know from authorities like the World Bank and the US State Department that girls who complete their education, marry later in life, have better health outcomes for themselves and for their children, and can lift the economic outlook not just for themselves and their communities, but for their entire countries. These are the kind of issues that I remain dedicated to in my post-White House life, as does Mrs. Obama, through our Girls Opportunity Alliance in the Obama Foundation, and to which Georgetown University has constantly dedicated its resources, talent, and reputation. I'm fortunate that this platform today gives me an opportunity to very publicly, very gratefully, acknowledge the contribution of your university to the important work of policymakers in our country striving for a better world, and to give my personal thanks to you, President DeGioia, for your steadfast leadership and commitment. Thank you. Now, I'm often asked how I got started on what has become a life of activism for women and girls. I sometimes refer to my immediate post-college days in the late 70s, working for state government in Springfield, Illinois, at a time when, lucky for me, and I suspect little did you know, that Springfield was actually the center of the universe for feminist activism in America. It was. That was because of the fight to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, which Illinois didn't do until 40 years later, meaning just last year. So much for my early effective activism. But then I remember I actually did my undergraduate senior thesis on social justice movements, including the women's movement, back when there was little scholarly work on women or gender politics or women's history. Yes, I did go to college in the not so distant dark ages. And then just recently, I was asked to participate in celebrating Gloria Steinem's 85th birthday. We were asked to submit something about Gloria in 85 words or less. It was sort of a modified tweet storm, I guess. So my contribution read, long before I knew the word feminist or why being a girl felt different, I knew Gloria Steinem. It's impossible to overstate the effect her words, her wisdom, her just being there had on me as I came of age and into awareness. And it was with tremendous awe that I later met her, worked personally with her, and had her greet me with a big hug and kiss of love and sisterhood. What a gift throughout my life. And I came in at 80 words. Now, coming up with those words made me really think about this process of coming into awareness. What are the influences that come into our lives at those critical moments? Moments that we may not even realize are important as they are happening, and yet they shape our awareness. When did I become aware of the significance of the curious stares and inquiries my mom and I used to get at the grocery store in our suburban Cleveland neighborhood where there was only one other Chinese family? When did I become aware that girls could actually aspire to play an interscholastic sport and not just be a cheerleader on the sidelines? You can tell that I am old enough to have gone to school before Title IX. And when did I become aware of the tension and strains in my male coworkers when I first entered the legal world, and I continued to be the same outspoken, overachieving person my college and law school had encouraged me to be? When did we as a society become aware that bosses telling sexual innuendo jokes, engaging in overly familiar embraces, and seeking sexual favors from their young associates, staff, or assistants was not something just to be endured quietly, but was actually unlawful sexual harassment that needed to be called out and addressed? On that last question, the answer seems to be October 2017. Over the course of the last year and a half, I think we have seen a clear demarcation between what we understood about workplace culture before the first Harvey Weinstein articles by Ronan Farrow, Jodi Kantor, and Megan Twohey, and how we as a society are looking at those issues now. There are companies, CEOs, men, and women bosses who are re-examining their sexual harassment policies and HR departments. The most enlightened are realizing that this isn't just about workplace harassment. It's about workplace culture. It's about the values you hold as an employer, that you want to project to the consuming public, and that you must therefore live out in your workplace. There are a new crop of advisors, lawyers, trainers, including myself and my firm, I have to add, that are trying to bring a new way of addressing workplace culture to the fore. Because it's not as though we haven't been here before. It's been over 30 years since the 1986 United States Supreme Court decision in Meritor Bank outlawed sexual harassment under federal law. It's been 28 years since the 1991 hearings where Anita Hill testified about her experience with sexual harassment. But something different has been happening to our collective awareness over the last year and a half. More and more women and men have been coming forward and speaking out, and because of their courage, we now have a better understanding of how pervasive and widespread sexual harassment is. It doesn't just happen in Hollywood or the music industry. It's happening in law firms, in tech firms, on manufacturing floors, in sales offices, in hotels, fast food restaurants, and yes, in colleges and universities too, as your activism against sexual assault on campus and the It's On Us Georgetown leaders know. And thank you for the work you all have been doing. So why now? Why now? Why in this moment? I think there's been a confluence of three factors that led to this national and indeed global shift in awareness. First, I think it did make a difference that the first stories happened in Hollywood. And I give a lot of credit to actresses like Natalie Portman, Ashley Judd, America Ferrera, Rashida Jones, and others who spoke out publicly at some risk to their own careers. That's because in our celebrity-driven culture, we all think Natalie Portman's our best friend. And we relate to her in ways that we could not relate to Anita, even as brave and as eloquent as Anita Hill was. It felt like this was happening to one of our girlfriends. And then we found out it was happening to one of our girlfriends. Because again, unlike the time of the Anita Hill hearings, this happened in a social media age. And thanks to the hashtag #MeToo movement started several years ago by Tarana Burke, women and men who experienced this could post about it with the hashtag and find a community of strength, support, and resilience, which then fueled more people to come forward. And now this problem, which had existed in the shadows for years, indeed for millennia, for as long as there has been work, this was now getting exposed to light. And we started to do something about it through our own actions in our workplaces and through support like the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, which I'm proud to have helped start. And finally, I believe it is young people like you who have made this moment different. You are speaking out like never before. You have come of age in Facebook and Instagram, and you're used to sharing every part of your lives, and you're not afraid to share even the painful moments. You are voting with your feet, walking out and asking employers about what they're doing about their workplace culture, and employers who are hungry for your talent and skills are listening. And you're voting with your dollars, paying attention to the values of the companies you are buying products and services from, and paying attention when those outward-facing values do not match how they treat their own employees. So now, graduates, it is up to you to continue that momentum. You are many already working, and you are leaving here to lead hospitality companies, to administer institutions of higher learning, to become marketing, communications, and public relations executives, to develop real estate projects and manage urban development, to work with sports teams and businesses, start and run cybersecurity, technology, and engineering firms, and to become journalists who will continue to write these stories. Give yourselves a hand. So you don't have to be the boss to set workplace culture. You set it in how you support your coworkers and what you ask of your employers. If you see someone getting ignored or talked over in a meeting, speak up and ask to hear what that person said again. If you find out that a coworker has a sick parent or is pregnant and afraid to ask for time off, ask your employer what they're doing to support workers and their families. If you see someone getting bullied at work or feeling uncomfortable when the boss pays too much attention to how they look, step in and take that person aside and support them, and then report it to your employer. In every place you go to pursue your career, you will be part of a workplace culture, and you have a powerful voice to make that culture one that is safe and respectful to everyone, and where each employee, each one of your colleagues, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, disability, gender identity, or who they love, has the ability to reach their full potential. And I have one final thing to ask of you graduates, and your families, and everyone here on this lawn. Don't just vote with your feet or your dollars, vote with your vote. We are not only in a moment on workplace culture, we are in a moment on the culture that defines our country as a whole. And we need to speak up, not just in our workplaces, but in our communities, and in the place where we as citizens in a democracy are most needed to speak up, and that is at the ballot box. And if you're wondering what that has to do with how my workplace will treat me, It has everything to do with it. Whether we have paid family leave or equal pay or protections against harassment for workers that are more effective than what we've had for the last 30 years, depends on who gets elected and what their commitment is to these issues. So as we head into the coming maelstrom known as the next election cycle, my final ask is, however you decide to use your voice and your vote, I want you to at least use it, and use it in every election. It is the root and foundation of our democracy, and it is up to each of us to protect it. And I know that as Georgetown graduates, you are among the most qualified, the most educated, the most determined new leaders we have. Leaders who will change our workplace culture, our political culture, our global culture, using the values, skills, and inspiration you have learned at this amazing institution. So congratulations, class of 2019. Onward to change our workplaces and to change our world. Thank you.